Brief disclaimer, there's a lot of mature themes in this, such as self-harm, murder, and general grief, as well as a lot of language, so viewer discretion is advised. Also, I would advise you to go and watch the songs for yourself, listen to the songs yourself. I was going to originally animate this video, by the way, but because of the next Antihuman song coming out in less than a month, or about a month, I decided to record this video now, skip the animation bit, and simply do an audio only, as I'm kind of only banking on the idea that you've heard all the songs before. Yeah. So, welcome. If you're here today, it means one of two things. You either left autoplay on, or you have some amount of vested interest in what we're here for today, Antihuman. Antihuman is made by Viva Graves, otherwise known as Ivycom, who is a Canadian Twitch streamer / YouTuber, songwriter, and musician. They created the first song in the series Antihuman back in August of 2023 with the intent of it being a one-off song. However, it gained such a following that they created its sequel, Antivillain. I put sequel in quotations because this is really the first part of where the story begins, as the original Antihuman was non-canon because of its intent of being a one-off song. So it ended up becoming a prototype. But back to the script. Antivillain was released a couple months later in 2024. Both received really well by fans, resulting in more songs, all with one central story connecting all of the songs. If you couldn't tell by the thumbnail for the video, there's a lot of stuff to cover and put together. I know I'm nobody important, but I grew tired of waiting for somebody to make a video like this, so I decided to do it myself. Besides, this was unexplored territory, as every time I looked up Antihuman lore explained, I would get some video about Antihuman, the concept, and not the actual music videos, or I'd get a bunch of theory and YouTube shorts with Antihuman in the background. I wanted to be known for something before I succumbed to the abyss of death. And I know I'm not qualified, if you don't count my 1,500,000 hours of Game Theory watch time, but I don't care. It's my video, I get to do what I want. Side note, it's important to note that I have a deep connection to Ivycom and their music because of some really personal reasons, and I'm glad they appeared in my life when they did. But enough of the riffraff of the intro, it's time to get into the lore of Antihuman. Chapter 1, Data Reject. I made the executive decision to tackle each song in the order of which they appear on the album titled Antihuman Lore, with one exception, as I believe this is the canon-ish, big air quotes there, timeline of events. The data I've gathered has pretty much confirmed this theory, so this is how we're going to do this. None of what I tell you is going to be a sweet little lie, only cold hard facts. We will also be going through the songs and making speculation at the end, so we all understand what's going on before we start theorizing. I will also be calling every woman who has taken the surgery, and those born non-human, antihumans, because it sounds cool, and makes much more sense for the story and universe, and helps just differentiate between nameless characters and such. The first song on our list is a banger that can be summarized as an arousing success. Now, the basic plot of the song of Data Reject is that a person goes through a surgery, hypothetically a surgery, which turns them from a human into an anthropomorphic animal person or a furry, but that's not important. We just call them antihumans. This person becomes a bat named Vanilla Milkshake and is frickin' adorable. However, they see themselves as a monster and sing about how much they hate the doctor / the antagonist of the series, Gron. We will cover him briefly. The beginning shows a person with the bar over their face and the words saying missing person on it. The bar implies something a bit dark if you haven't watched the music video for some reason. I don't know. I don't even know why I brought this up in the script. Whatever. Their names is stated to be Akim Salih Valenka, an anagram from Vanilla Milkshake. Very clever, Ivycom. The beginning of the song starts with someone talking about developing a language learning computer to break down any language to our own, which is interesting because of how seemingly random this is to include. But what I think this means is how it parallels humans meeting with antihumans, but I could be mistaken. It is important to note that Lovecut V in the Discord, while I was talking with them, did bring up the fact that, they mentioned something about how the new Antihuman video was going to mention the transformation process and what's going on behind that, and they pointed out that it's, alien in some fashion. I don't know what that's supposed to be about. However, this could be referencing this line. Vanilla talks about not wanting to be a part of Gron's schemes, but in the end, they don't really get the choice. They bring up their own bat form, Corruptera on my kin, and how darkness in time begins to crawl underneath their skin. There are many times in this video when I can't interpret some of the lines for metaphors when I know they aren't literal statements, so just know I'm doing the best I can with what I have. Probably should have put this at the beginning, but whatever. Anyways, Vanilla mentions others like him who were seeking retribution, but it was in vain. This could mean revenge against Gron, or they wanted their life to improve, but didn't. However, because of the second to last verse goes, I believe it's for them wanting their life to improve in general. I don't know if their desires were in vain or just never truly fulfilled. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Vanilla brings up how the discourse of the world should be driving them insane. Vanilla and the other antihumans. This is ironic because of Vanilla, spoiler alert, eventually dies. Vanilla Milkshake mentions innocence in the hope of their anti-human becoming being all sunshine and rainbows, but God's got plans, as the song states, so that's not happening. Vanilla clings to hope, believing that things will get better, but no. I don't understand why the eat the hats bit is in, because it usually means the phrase itself, that the person's going to do something stupid if they're proven right or wrong. However, this could be referencing Vanilla's death. I don't know why it's in here. Gron comes in to sing a verse, and I think this bit is important. He points out that Vanilla and the other anti-humans are starry-eyed, which generally means that they have a large amount of ignorant enthusiasm, meaning that Gron probably preyed off their desire for something more in life. He announces authority with, "All of you answer to me," and that they must stick to the plan, saying that all the anti-humans under him might just be his cute second hand when this is all over. Hypothetically, I might be reading into this too much. When Gron mentions the plan, it makes me think there's definitely something more here, but it's hard to say exactly. However, we will get more info on what this plan might be soon, the way Gron says in the song. Man, he is my favorite character in this whole thing. I don't care what you say about him. Eventually, Vanilla comes to the realization that they are a part of Gron's machinations. They claim how Gron doesn't know how he even managed to pull this whole thing off, and that Gron is trying to get away with more than he should and wants him to die. But why doesn't Vanilla just kill Gron? I think it's because Vanilla doesn't have it in themselves to do so. The shop positions Akim in the beginning as being smaller than Gron, who was Vanilla Milkshake, if you forgot. However, after the transformation, Vanilla is much bigger than him. This could be a metaphor for the results being bigger than expected. What I'm trying to say is that Ivy has said that Vanilla was an arousing success in his lore stream, meaning that just like Vanilla's size, the results were greater and better, leading to breakthroughs in the Antihuman project. During a great dark rap session, Vanilla Milkshake questions why people try to be someone or something they're not, which is ironic considering how they got into this position in the first place. Bit too late for these deep philosophical questions, buddy. Then they bring up the clout that brought them here, which reduced them all to rot, bringing them here to an irreversible fate. Vanilla questions why they ever thought to join Antihuman Incorporated. A part of Vanilla wants to be allied with Gron, but believes that he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand why Vanilla is here or what they want. At least that's what I'm getting from the song. At the end of it all, Vanilla understands that they are loved for who they are, and they aren't a monster. The anti-human surgery is obviously brutal, if the line "tinted by pain" is anything to go off, as well as just the general visual representation of Vanilla looking like they're in constant agony, and like a monster. But yeah, even though Vanilla goes through a whole character arc, we know how this ends. The description of the video mentions data corruption at 99.99%, implying how unstable Vanilla was by the end, possibly dying because of an incident. Whether this is suicide or just an accident is up for debate, and we might never get an answer. But based on what we might get from Lab Rat, as teased by Lovecut V, we might actually get an answer to that. I still need to figure out what all the melodies in my head converge into their lies means. Probably just Vanilla Milkshake not believing in the Antihuman project. However, one line that does foreshadow a future point of the story is this. This is one line I really love, and probably my favorite. When does all the difference meld into the same? If you don't understand what I'm talking about, or even have the vaguest idea, I will explain in Chapter 3 of this video, so stick around until then. This song is depressing, but still a banger of a dark rap, and I love it for that reason, but does show flaws with the projects. I'm talking about Antihuman Incorporated, not the songs. The songs are perfect. Also, I'm sorry for, taking deep breaths in the middle of every sentence, because I'm trying to, record this as fast as possible, and I'm trying not to, take breaks in between sessions, so I'm just kind of doing this all in one go, so sorry in advance. I'll try to edit that out. Also, one final mention is that after looking at the Discord for extended periods of time and chatting with Lovecut V, I kind of figured out that I was going to have to redo basically a good few chapters of the script beforehand, before I began recording for this. And the beginning where they bring up the translation machine, that is intentional because I just found out that Gron and Mocha are basically aliens. And if you don't know who Mocha is at this point, go listen to the songs and watch Ivy Come and stuff, because he is important to the whole story of Antihuman. Probably shouldn't have referenced him just yet, because he isn't important until after the next song that's coming up. So, yep,